So continuing our discussion on the various Iron Man armors within Marvel Comics, we pick up now with Marks 21 through 40. So the Mark 21 debuted in Black Panther Volume 3, issue number 44 during the 5-part story, Enemy of the State. Where the event revealed that Black Panther had joined the Avengers to spy on them, it also revealed that he had set up a series of dummy corporations to hide the fact that he owned ABC Wire and Cable, the company used to install fiber optics in Avengers Mansion and Stark Tower. Because of this, T'Challa knew the strengths and weaknesses of every iteration of Stark's Iron Man armor dating back to the Mark III. As a result, when Stark advocated T'Challa be expelled from the Avengers and confronted him about this information, a battle ensued revealing that T'Challa had not only provided himself with claws capable of piercing Stark's armor, but also programmed a backdoor, allowing him to temporarily disable it. While the story went on to become somewhat of a clustered mess involving the future duplicates of the US President, Canadian Prime Minister, and even T'Challa himself, in terms of the Mark 21, the armor was developed explicitly for the purpose of facing Black Panther head-on without having to worry about his anti-metal claws or ability to hack the armor. To this end, the Mark 21 was designed as completely non-metallic using a Kevlar polymer weave and biocircuits, allowing for the same functionality as the normal armors without any of the electrical or metal components. In addition to this, because Black Panther's technology in Wakanda was so advanced, the suit was also designed to compensate by redesigning the stealth capabilities, allowing the Mark 21 to remain hidden from any and all forms of detection used by Black Panther, including his enhanced senses, night vision, infrared, and the like. The suit also had a cloaking device to hide from the naked eye, as well as noise reduction jets and internal air tanks, allowing for Stark to breathe without putting off any external indication. Moving on to the Mark 22, this armor is more commonly referred to as the Thorbuster armor. Debuting in Iron Man Volume 3, issue number 64 during the 3-part story Standoff, during the events, peasants in Slovakia had developed a religion around Thor, which was quashed by the nation's government, resulting in the peasants' execution. Because Thor had been functioning as ruler of Asgard after Odin's death against the fire demon Surtur, when Thor was informed of the peasants' executions by Heimdall, he had returned to Earth for the purpose of punishing the nation's army. During this time, Iron Man was contacted by the federal government and sent to intervene, creating a standoff between the two over fear that Thor's continued rampage would lead to a third world war against Thor and his Asgardian forces. However, in the midst of the conflict, Dr. Doom intervened by speaking with Iron Man directly, revealing that at some point in the past, Thor had given Stark a material of unknown origin, which was claimed to tap into the power of the Odin Force and composed of the same material as Thor's hammer called Uru Metal. Using it as a central power source, Stark developed the Mark 22 armor for the purpose of allowing him to do battle against Thor on an even playing field. Regarding its capabilities, like the Hulkbuster armor, Thorbuster was designed for brute force more so than energy projection. To this end, where it did contain repulsors and a unibeam, the armor itself is powered by the Odin Force, making it an even match for the power of Thor, and even allowing Stark to stop Mjolnir mid-flight. Transitioning to the Mark 23, this armor debuted in Iron Man Volume 3, issue number 71, and is another armor designed by Stark for the purpose of space exploration. However, where previous versions were designed in an identical fashion to his normal armors, with the exception of some force field or jet enhancements, because the depths of space are dangerous and the Mark 20 had been destroyed by an alien race, Stark designed the Mark 23 to counter this problem. Regarding its capabilities, the Mark 23 uses honeycomb-shaped polymer tiles, meaning that if the exterior of the armor is damaged by an external force, another piece of armor rises up and takes its place, maintaining the armor's integrity, while simultaneously serving as chaff which can be thrown out into the face of enemies. In addition to this, because it was designed more for defense and exploration, where the Mark 23 does contain the standard run of repulsors and a unibeam, it also contains diamond-tipped blades for cutting through any materials minus adamantium and vibranium, as well as a biocontainment field to keep samples protected from exposure to anything which might cause contamination. Moving on to the Mark 24, a common misconception is that this armor debuted in Iron Man Volume 3, issue number 73, but actually appeared in issue number 78 during the 4-part story The Deep End, coming out of Stark's appointment to the position of Secretary of Defense following the House of M and leading up to Civil War. As a result, there wasn't really a major conflict that necessitated the design of this armor so much as it was simply Stark's desire to create something new. Regarding its abilities, the armor is pretty standard in comparison to the other designs. Like the previous models, the Mark 24 contained repulsors, a unibeam, sonics, and concussion blasts, but also used zero-point energy. Now to clear this up, zero-point energy is a principle of quantum physics and represents the leftover energy of an object when the temperature is absolute zero, which is to say, when all matter stops moving. In addition to this, the armor used voice commands allowing it to enter battle mode and reform itself on Tony Stark, as well as extend a repulsor field over allies for protection and shut down all of the other Iron Man armors by remote override. Something to note here is that where the Mark 24 was destroyed in Iron Man Volume 3 issue number 83, it was replaced by the Mark 25 in issue number 84, but there was virtually no distinguishable difference between the two in that they were effectively identical. Now following the Mark 25 came the Extremis armor. While it is considered the 29th model, because Marks 26 through 28 only appeared once or twice for use as experimentation with no field deployment, those armors simply served as fill-in rather than anything of real value. As one of Stark's most popular suits, the Extremis armor debuted in Iron Man Volume 4 issue number 5 during the 6-part story Extremis. In this event, a Stark Industries subsidiary named Future Farm had been developing a duplicate of Abraham Erskine's super soldier serum, during which time they developed Extremis. However, while in the midst of their project, Future Farm scientist Maya Hansen discovered that the federal government intended to stop funding their research and alongside Aldrich Killian, sold Extremis on the black market. As a result, while working to retrieve the Extremis technology, Stark was injured in a battle with the villain Malin, during which time he subjected himself to Extremis, which began to rewrite his DNA. To this end, under the benefits of Extremis, rather than physically stepping into a suit, the Iron Man armor was essentially part of Stark's physical body. Using mental commands, Stark can immerse himself in the Extremis armor using its memory metal design, meaning that Extremis can regenerate the armor itself, as well as Stark's physical body should either become damaged. In addition to this, the Extremis technology allowed Stark to access all satellite networks, security systems, and digital technologies, while also piloting the armor remotely alongside several other forms of armor. Where the standard loadout of repulsors, a unibeam, cloaking, and sonics remained, shields, deflectors, and a neural net allowed Stark to counter mutant powers as well as copy them to a degree. Furthermore, the Extremis armor allowed for enhanced flight for speeds over 6,000 miles per hour, but the downside of all this was that without the Extremis drug, the ability to utilize the benefits of the Extremis armor were nearly impossible. Now following the Extremis armor came Marks 30 through 34. These armors debuted in Iron Man Volume 4 issue number 7, however, while these suits were designed by Stark, they were never designed to be used in any field capacity and actually existed outside of the Stark automatic shutdown protocols. While the armors did activate after the son of Joe Henson took over Stark's weapon systems but was assassinated by Nick Fury, aside from the armors being powerful enough to require the combined efforts of the Fantastic Four and Iron Man to take them down, there's not really any information in the comics indicating what it was that these armors were capable of. Moving to the Mark 35, this was a Hydro armor developed by Stark that had only appeared once during Wolverine Volume 3 issue number 45 as part of the Civil War conflict, allowing Wolverine to visit Namor the Submariner in his home world of Atlantis. The Mark 36 armor debuted in World War Hulk number 1 following Banner's return to Earth after the events of Planet Hulk. Because Banner was so powerful due to the fact that he was in his angriest form to date, the Mark 36 was essentially an upgraded form of the Hulkbuster armor, and that rather than relying on strength only, the suit also contained anti-gamma radiation nanites designed to force Hulk back to his human form. However, because those had been tampered with, the purpose of the armor was effectively rendered useless, allowing Hulk to subdue Stark along with the rest of the Illuminati. Transitioning to the Mark 37, this armor debuted in Invincible Iron Man issue number 25 and began the process of leading up to the superior Iron Man armor. Coming out of Dark Reign, which centered on Norman Osborn taking over for Stark following his ousting as director of S.H.I.E.L.D., at the event's conclusion, Osborn attacked Stark and beat him into a vegetative state. Where this led into Stark disassembled, Pepper Potts was informed by a hologram of Tony that he had previously backed his mind up, and like a computer, Tony could effectively be rebooted using the most recent backup. Electing to act on this information, Thor and Bucky Barnes reset Tony, leading to him coming out of a vegetative state, but with no recollection of recent events. Viewing his life as a fresh start, Stark sought to have his armor reflect this by designing a new suit modeled after the Extremis technology, but taken to the next step. Regarding its abilities, the Mark 37 uses the Extremis design of keeping the armor inside Stark's body and only coming out when mentally commanded, but rather than simply taking on the form of Iron Man armor and acting accordingly, the suit is actually composed of nanomachines powered by an arc reactor on the chest, capable of allowing the nanomachines to reshape themselves into clothes, other armors, people, as well as heal both the armor and Stark himself. In addition to this, the armor is capable of reshaping the limbs into weapons limited only by Stark's imagination and include guns, laser cannons, and the like. Furthermore, rather than the repulsors being located only on the palms, they're also located on the knuckles, the chest, the back, and the legs of the armor. Moving to the Mark 38, this armor is more popularly known as the Phoenix Buster armor and debuted in Avengers vs. X-Men number 5 once the Avengers became aware that the Phoenix Force was returning. However, rather than destroying the Phoenix Force as was intended, when Stark used the Disruptor, it resulted in the Phoenix Force being split among Cyclops, Emma Frost, Namor, Colossus, and Magik, turning them into the Phoenix 5. The Mark 39 armor debuted in Invincible Iron Man number 517 during the 5-part story Long Way Down. As part of this story, Mandarin and Ezekiel Stane, the son of Obadiah Stane, began deploying a series of revamped armors around the world, attacking various territories. Because Stark had also found himself subjected to a series of corporate espionage attacks at the hands of Hammer Industries, these incidents combined with the Mandarin tricking the media into believing that Stark was still a drunk led to the US government forcing Stark to install a government-sanctioned device that could shut down the Iron Man armor remotely. And so in an effort to force Sasha and Justine Hammer, the daughter and granddaughter of Justin Hammer, as well as the Mandarin and Ezekiel Stane into the open and defeat them, Stark engineered a plan to resign from his position as Iron Man and appoint James Rhodes in his place, using a newly designed suit of armor that was not under the control of the government. Regarding its abilities, the Mark 39 didn't actually have anything new that didn't previously exist in either the War Machine or the Iron Man armors, in that it did contain the standard loadout of repulsors, sonics, and a unibeam, but also contained the ghosting technology of the War Machine armor, allowing the suit to phase through solid matter. Finally, the Mark 40 armor made its debut in Invincible Iron Man number 523 towards the conclusion of the Long Way Down storyline. Where James Rhodes was employed to operate as Iron Man in Stark's place, Mandarin had secretly been developing a series of Titanomech armors of his own with the help of Ezekiel Stane. However, because Stane's knowledge was far from Stark's, Mandarin had taken over the mind of Stark and forced him to build the Titanomech suits. But following their completion, it was revealed that Stark had found a way to combat the Mandarin's mind control, and working alongside Ezekiel, who had turn-coded as well, Stark developed the Mark 40 using scraps similar to his original armor as a means to defeat the Titanomech models and escape the Mandarin. Regarding its abilities, because the Mark 40 used limited supplies, its physical appearance reflected the shoddy materials in its creation, but maintained the technological advancements of Stark's most recent models. To this end, where the Mark 40 did contain the standard loadout of Iron Man weapons in the form of repulsors, a unibeam, sonics, and concussions, the suit was also capable of interfacing with Swarm, a series of mini-computers designed by Stark Resilient, the renamed Stark Industries after the conclusion of Siege, when Osborn was ousted and Stark turned his attention to developing less violent technologies. Using his ability to tap into Swarm, the Mark 40 was able to form a giant repulsor cannon which destroyed the Titanomech suits, defeating the Mandarin and allowing Stark to escape. With that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.